Hey guys, I wanted to talk a little bit more about Alien Covenant, Prometheus, and the Alien franchise as a whole. Um, I did a live stream just straight after seeing Alien Covenant for the first time. Immediately when I got home from the cinema, I turned the live stream on and gave you guys my initial thoughts of the movie. I did really like it, but I did have kind of mixed feelings about certain things, camera angles and stuff like that used in the film. And some of my opinions on that have actually changed since seeing the film a couple more times. Currently, I've seen it 3 times at the cinema, and I'm not going to watch it anymore at the cinema. I think that's enough. I'm going to wait for the Blu-ray because I like to save the experience, and then when I get it at home, I'll really digest it a lot more because as some of you guys know, I am a huge Alien fan, have been since I was a kid, and it's definitely an interesting chapter, and I would say it's I love it even more. Like I think the more I think about it, the more I think Ridley Scott is onto something with with where he's taken this franchise. It's quite a beautiful. I don't know what word to call it. Like a brick in the wall. Let's use that for lack of a better term. But what I mean by that is obviously it's a bridge between Prometheus and Alien Covenant, and I've heard some people because I've read quite a few reviews of other people's thoughts and feelings on the film now, and read some great analysis already of the movie. There's some great ones on AVP Galaxy, albeit a lot of hate on there as well for the film from the vocal side of the fandom. But yeah, I've read a couple of like people brought up the fact that the Prometheus feeling they got from the film and the Alien film didn't gel well together. They said it didn't know which one it'd rather be, and I take sort of issue with that because mainly because it's meant to be the ending of the Prometheus kind of story, with Shaw and all that lot and how that ended, and then it moves on to what David's going to do in the next film and what he does in sort of the midway to the end of this movie, and while I did feel that initial rushed feeling towards the third act of Alien Covenant on my first viewing, on the second and third, I had no issues with it whatsoever. I actually thought it was quite a wise move to have the alien turn up and they have to deal with it, and in like the way that we sort of have already seen before, but it's kind of done in a way that is handled really well. I think what I mean by what lends a positive sort of note to that is the fact that the ship, the Covenant, is designed in such a way that it is easier to trap the alien where they need it to go. There's only so many corridors it can go down, and obviously as we see in there, they have the motion tracker already set into the dashboard, whereas in the Nostromo they didn't really have that, and obviously Hadley's Hope didn't have the means because the power was all messed up and they didn't have motion trackers there. And in Alien 3, obviously that's Fury 161, and the Aurora, they have no excuse. They should have had some sort of motion tracker system, which I think they might have done actually, because it says all aliens, like the father robot characters talking about the aliens escaping or something. But no. But so the design of the Covenant the ending feels rushed because they actually managed to dispose the alien much quicker than previously. And I actually equate that to a number of variables. You could brush it off as just poor writing, which I heard a lot of people say, but I don't agree with that. I think the ending feels the way it does because you've got this alien that is almost the first of its kind, as far as we know. At this time, it's the first of its kind, and it acts a lot more like the neomorphs and like the runners. It's much more animalistic and like aggressive, and like when Daniels is bringing the crane around, the alien just attacks the crane like instantly without even questioning. It's like, I've got to just destroy this thing, and they manage to dispose the aliens in that way because they're not as smart as what we've seen before, and there's the one in Alien, and why the other ones act a little bit smarter, I would say, is probably because it's been more refined. As we know from whether it's David or whoever, like that species of alien, if you want to call it that, is a lot more refined. Obviously, as we know, it's more biomechanical and this, that, and the other. But they dispose the alien in Covenant really quickly because it's a different breed of animal, and I think that they've made it very clear in this movie that it is a kind of different breed. It's obviously cut from the same cloth, very close, but it's not what you know and love wholly. And obviously, as I said, the design of the Covenant ship is much less complicated than the Nostromo. So I feel like the alien in Alien, in the original film, it stalked its prey a lot more, and it hid away for quite a while to got lost and and it was alone. And that's in this one, the alien is way more aggressive and upfront and just won't stop. I didn't mind the change. I thought that was a refreshing sort of look at the origins of the alien. I hadn't even really mulled over that concept before, because I didn't really read too much up on Covenant beforehand. So going into the film, I kind of figured David might be the discovery or the creation of the alien to an extent, but I didn't think they were going to do what they did in this movie and do it so well. I thought as soon as you see those eggs in the basement, I thought that is the perfect birthplace for the alien, for the xenomorph as we know and love it. Because obviously, when I was younger, you have this idea of the alien being this unknown creature that the space jockeys or whoever found in the deepest, darkest depths of space, and you don't really know its origin. But that's as far as really that concept goes, because if as soon as you say what it is, where it came from there, then you're just going to say, well, it's just an animal that came from this location, or whatever it is, an entity. Whereas in what Ridley Scott's done with Prometheus and Covenant is he's changed the origin of the alien to be like this almost. It's like the engineers had tapped into the very fabric of what creates life. Like they know, it's like they've almost tapped into building a consciousness in organic matter, and have it be this living, breathing thing, and you never know what you're going to get from it. So it has lots of different properties, and the fact that you don't quite know what you're going to get out of it is, for me, as I've gotten older, like I did like the idea of them finding it in the darkest depths of space when I was younger, but more recently, and after seeing Prometheus and Covenant, I really do like this idea of the engineers almost creating life out of nothing, because that is what happens with David. As they mention in the movies, he was brought to life from nothing, and he was made out of bits and bobs or whatever. As there's a deleted scene from Prometheus where they talk about that, or Holloway talks about it. It's like made you out of bits and pieces we found on the floor or something. There's a line somewhere back in the day. But yeah, no, I really like that idea, because David, was created from nothing, and so was the alien, essentially, because the engineers have done it. And that's, I feel like, what they're trying to link David to, is why he sees it as a perfect organism, is because it's like birthed from nothing, like he is, and and it's going to wipe out his creators and our creators. And I really like that, because it's a much more sinister edge to the alien, and it really does make them an alien type creature, because they shouldn't really belong in our universe whatsoever, yet they do. And it's all because of the people who made us and of what we've made, and it's great. And I think that obviously you can say that's the be all and end all, and there's no more mystery left in that, but there's more mystery in what you can do with that concept than exploring it further, like going backwards. Now we know where it sort of all came from. Now it's like, where is it going to go? And obviously Alien Covenant, really, it has an ending that has that question at its heart. Is he's going off with those 2,000 colonists, and he's got those 2 facehugger embryos, and what is he going to do with them? Are those colonists going to become the eggs that we saw in LV-426? I've played around with that idea before. I mean, it'd be such a fantastic, weird concept to see, David being the one who's, he basically lords over this alien creation that he's made, but in the end, he's flawed, and that's probably going to be his undoing. There's that line in Alien Covenant where they talk about the Ozymandias speech, and Walter corrects David for getting the quote wrong, and David looks really pissed off. And obviously, David hasn't really been treated too much, and he's definitely a broken a broken soul. I want to use that thing. He's someone who's got lost along the way, and Weyland didn't treat him right, as we see in the opening of Covenant. And it's also one of these things where going back and watching Prometheus is a really, really refreshing thing to do after watching Covenant, because you can see what the genesis of what creates David's curiosity for creation. There's a line in Prometheus where Shaw says, "What do you want, David?" or something like this, and he says, "Want, not a concept I'm familiar with. That said, doesn't everyone want their parents dead?" And in the beginning of Covenant, we see that when David's basically been born, he meets Weyland, and Weyland treats him like a dick, and he says, like, David turns to Weyland and says, "Wait, I'm not going to die, but you are, yet you're the creator." And then, Guy Pearce, Weyland says, "Bring me the tea," and is really forceful with that. Now you cut to, because that was when they first met, so that was all before Prometheus. Now you cut to Prometheus, and David is still serving under Weyland, and there's a line in the film where they talk about that Weyland has programmed David, so maybe David disturbed Weyland with that very notion that he brought up when he first met him. So he's sort of under lock and key, and that's why David says that he wants his parents to be dead. It's essentially what he admits to Shaw. And she says something in that film about, like, if Weyland's not around, he'd be free. And obviously, David's a very cunning character, because he says want is not a concept that he's familiar with, yet in Covenant we learn that he wants to create. He wants to be free from his creators and everything, because he sees them as inferior. As he, kills off people, he knows that his creators are going to die, as he mentions to Weyland. And not only that, he mentions when the engineer's head explodes in Prometheus, the first thing David says is "mortal after all," which obviously at the time, you see it, it's like, oh, so he's basically saying that, yeah, the gods are mortal after all, so they're not the true creators, if there is any, obviously, like in real life. And yet now we can look back on that with what we know he's what we discover in Covenant, that he sees that as a kind of, they're mortal. My creators are just as feeble as my creators, and I'm never gonna die. And it's just it brings up such philosophical ideas and concepts throughout Prometheus and Covenant now. And the Alien franchise is now, Alien, Aliens, Alien 3, and Alien Resurrection, if you want to go that route. They're all about Ripley trying to save the human race from this abomination that her and her crew have discovered, and stop the company from exploiting it. Now with Covenant and Prometheus, and hopefully with the subsequent films, they are following up on this idea, because I'm loving what Covenant presents, but it presents David, who is the complete opposite of Ripley. He is someone who wants to see the human race be obliterated, and he's the creator of the alien. So it's kind of like the yin yang of the Alien franchise. So Ripley being, representing everything light, and David representing everything dark. And it's such a nice idea, because everyone, all the protagonists, as I want to use that term, in each of these new Alien films, Prometheus and Covenant, they have Shaw and they have Daniels, and everyone equates it to being like a Ripley clone. I've heard that so many times, but I think it's meant to be a clever Ripley clone. They're saying that this franchise has pretty much been led by female actresses for since the beginning. That's not really going to change. What difference does it make? It's all about their character. I get that, but I think what they're doing is they're secretly, David is the lead. He is the almost antagonist, but he's the protagonist, because you're basically following his journey, even though he will always hold the kind of, I want to use butler type waiter position in the lineup of things. He's like he's meant to be like a side character, but he's like one that's sort of forcing his way into the limelight all the time, which I love. But it's like following his journey, and he is the anti-Ripley. So you can, when these two sort of when they really do meet, if we do see the ship crash on LV-426, if we find out where those eggs came from, you'll literally have this sort of, I don't know, arc where David is the creator, and we find out like why he's so malicious and why he wants to see the humans die, which we've seen in Prometheus and Covenant now. And then you find out how like that joins up to Ripley, and then Ripley is the savior. And I argue that that is why I love Alien 3 even more now. And as most of you know, I'm a huge advocate of the Alien 3, more so of the assembly cut than the theatrical. The theatrical is a bit messy in parts. The assembly cut is a diamond in the rough. But this Covenant has made that even better. Prometheus and Covenant, will I say, because Alien 3 is about Ripley saving the humans from the aliens and the company. In the story of Alien 3, the queen inside her chest is literally the last remnants of the alien that, as we know now, David created. So she wants to get rid of it, and she does this a silent hero self-sacrifice. She jumps into the furnace, with the company right there. The alien is inside her, and she saves the day, but no one will be sort of celebrating Ripley. It's like a silent hero, as I said. But it makes it even more interesting because now we kind of know, or what we're suspecting is going to happen in a future movie, is we find out that the company, and this is all speculative, but the company wants the alien now, not necessarily just for the bioweapons division as Ripley was suspecting, but also because they own it. Because they own David, and he's a product of the Weyland company, they see David's creation. We could find out that they see David's creations as their own. They're like, we own that because we own David. So they want the alien because it's almost like they're trying to clean up their mess, but at the same time trying to reclaim something that they own. Oh god, I could talk about this shit all day. But yeah, I loved Alien Covenant. I thought obviously the music was fantastic. It was nice to hear a lot of Jerry Goldsmith back, but it wasn't used in a way that was too, for me it wasn't too overbearing. It was almost like it was saying like, no, this is the feeling you're gonna get when you watch these movies. The music's gonna sound a lot like what you know and love, but it worked for the film it was, I thought. And also, but the acting was all great. I've got no grievance with anyone. I thought like the characters, I'll tackle this subject, the characters going off and like, having, a smoke or cleaning up. I think that people need to remember that these characters are people who are at their most vulnerable because they're trusting in things that they don't quite understand are out of their control. So what I mean by that is the guy going off and having a smoke and then getting his ear infected, he was just going off to have a smoke. He said to her he was going for a wee or a piss, and it's like, well, obviously he's going off to have a cheeky cigarette because he's like that. I know people in real life who do that. It's like they do that all the time. And in the Alien universe, you've got to remember that this isn't it's our universe, but it's in the future where space travel is almost not getting nonchalant. Landing on alien planets, that they talk about the air being, what's in the actual air, the chemicals. There's a line in the background about it that I noticed, and that's why they don't go down in spacesuits. So it's like they do it in Star Trek all the time, and they do it in Alien all the time. They're very good at doing that sort of stuff. There's a lot of gripes with Prometheus when they take all their helmets off, and I've never had an issue with that because their technology is clearly better than ours. So they have something that goes, it's completely perfect, and it's all about that trusting in machinery, like what we're using here. It's the idea of if that was ever to fail on us, then what are the catastrophic events of it? And it all, that's why I love Jurassic Park. That's why I love Godzilla. It's always like man versus like the unknown, and like I like that this film did that with these characters. The woman who went off to wash herself, she obviously had these cuts on her arms that she was tending to from the neomorph attack, and she wanted to wash up and just sort of take a breather because it's all a bit too much. And as David said, this place is perfectly safe. And they don't know that the other Neomorph's going to find them where they are, because David says it's safe, and they trust David because he's a robot, and they do that with Walter as well. I've heard some people say that in Covenant, why does the captain go down to look at the eggs with David when he's just seen David with a Neomorph? Well, I think you've got to remember that these people trust the robots. The robots aren't meant to kill people; they're not programmed to, and not only that, like, they trust these robots so much in the Alien universe that all the people are asleep in Prometheus and Covenant, and we know that David and Walter, when those ships were going out, they were walking around the ship doing whatever they wanted to do for the entire time, years, even months, even, or whatever. And that's it. That's how much these characters trust robots, and that's a sort of metaphor for how we look at robots and machines and and all that. And it's like, we do trust them, and if they go wrong, then we get angry or we get upset, because they should be the most efficient things. And so, Billy Cudrip's Aurum character going down into the basement to look at the eggs, with his gun. He's got the gun in his hand. I feel like he feels more safe, and he doesn't feel like David's going to do anything. He knows he could take David out if something happened. I didn't take issue with that. But yeah, it's and I heard someone in an interview, I think it could have been Ridley Scott, talking about how the guy looking into the egg is like, it taps into that nightmarish feel, because if you have a nightmare and something bad is happening, it always seems to go the way you don't want it to go, even though you're kind of almost weirdly self-aware of it. So it's like, we all know as an audience member, don't look at that egg because we know what's going to happen. But for the character, it's like, I'm just okay, and he's got the gun, and then obviously he doesn't expect a facehugger to fly out. But yeah, okay, you could say it's a little bit too trusting. I mean, I wouldn't even be on that planet to begin with, but but for the movie's purposes, I really did like that, and it didn't distract me whatsoever. It only really distracted me when I started reading people's comments, because now it's like I'm watching the film, and for God's sake, like, now I can't stop thinking about people saying like, oh, why is he doing this? Why? It's like, who cares? Like, it's fine as it is. Kane sticks his face right in an egg in the original Alien, and that doesn't make that film stupid, even though don't go touching and looking at the eggs. I think he touches the egg as well, which is yeah, and so does Aurum. But no, back to just my thoughts on this all. I absolutely love the Alien franchise, and I'm so happy with Prometheus and Covenant. Even more so now with Covenant out. Prometheus is up by tenfolds in my book because of the character David, and you see where it's going. You see how Shaw Shaw basically embodies the character of Prometheus. So what I mean by that is, and I saw someone on AVP Galaxy, I forget who said it, so please excuse me if you're watching this and you know it was you, but they mentioned that Shaw is basically embodied the character of Prometheus from the old stories. And so she, if you don't know the story of Prometheus, as you should know if you're watching this, if you love Alien Covenant, and that is, Prometheus was a god who thought man should be on equal footing, so he gave fire to man as sort of a gift, and then the other gods punished Prometheus by strapping him to a rock, and an eagle pecked his stomach out every single day as punishment for giving man fire. Now Elizabeth Shaw gives David, basically aids David in the I don't know, discovering creation. Like in Prometheus, David is, walking around the ship, blah, 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 he's watching films, and he's getting more ideas, and then she says stuff to him, and it makes him question, who he is, especially towards the end of Prometheus. He's like, I'm afraid I was going to lose you. And you kind of see how David looks up to Shaw in some weird way, which is what we learn in Covenant, is he kind of says he loves her, but at the same time he's doing horrible things to her, and it's like that, the pull between those two emotions in David is taken out on Shaw, unfortunately. But yeah, so you see she gives him the ideas of creation and all that, because he wouldn't even be on the Prometheus going to look for his gods had Weyland not made him, and had Shaw not discovered and brought her passion for looking for the gods to the Prometheus or to Wayland, because there's that deleted scene where she's discussing to Wayland, or not deleted scene, but like a viral video where she's discussing to Wayland, like, you know as well as I how important this mission could be. So she aids David in learning creation, which is giving fire to man, or it's like a creator giving fire to the created. Let's put it that way. And obviously, as we know in Covenant, Shaw is all cut open, and David has done terrible things to her, and it's like the ironic twist is it's not the gods that have punished Shaw. Well, as far as we know, it's David doing it. So it's a kind of a flip and reverse of that. Man, just too much awesomeness. The aliens themselves, as I've mentioned, I did really like them. Some people say that they're not scary anymore, and I'll agree with that to some extent. I think that the alien as a whole, as a creature, for me, it's not scary anymore. Like, I watched the original films and stuff, and while I know that they are technically scary, I don't get scared by them whatsoever. I used to when I was younger, but now the films are just like a source of inspiration, and they teach me things about storytelling and the production design and all this sort of stuff. Like, it helps me learn about all that, and I love the journey as well, and I love seeing it all. But that said, I don't think they're bad horror or bad horror action. I think they will be for first time viewers. Every single time someone who hasn't seen Alien sees it for the first time, it always gets to them, and that's just the power of the movie, and that's that hasn't changed in my mind. But when I watch it, I'm not watching it the same as I was. So Covenant doing what it does and how it changes the backstory and stuff, I'm all on board with it. I think I like it when directors and creators make choices and go a route and take risks and go, yeah, let's just do that because why not? It doesn't remove the old film. It's like Alien Resurrection. I don't watch Alien Resurrection. Really, I haven't watched it in so long now. But yeah, I don't consider it part of the canon. It ends with Alien 3 for me. So you could do that with Covenant if you wanted to, if you didn't like it. So yeah, it really doesn't change anything in the long run. So yeah. Anyway, I've been waffling on way too much. But yeah, so I've sat on it a little bit longer. I loved Alien Covenant. I've had a few people ask me, like, where do I think it ranks in the scheme of things, and I don't particularly like to do ranking because different films have different moods and feelings to them, and they tell different stories. So on some day I might fancy watching Alien, on another day I might fancy watching Aliens, or one day I might watch Alien 3 or fancy Prometheus. You get the idea. But if I was to rank them, I would have Alien, the director's cut, Aliens, the director's cut, Alien 3, or Aliens, the theatrical. Both are really good. I do like the theatrical cut of Alien, but I haven't watched it in so long, and the egg morphing scene I love. So Alien director's cut, Aliens director's cut, Alien 3, the assembly cut, Prometheus. I've actually just recently watched the work print cut of that, which is absolutely mind-blowingly good, and that's a fan edit. I can't post the link or anything because copyright issues and all that, but it's out there if you want to look for it. It's the Prometheus work print edition. A fan has put all the deleted scenes back in, and it's so good. And even deleted scenes I'd never even seen before. I don't even think they're on the Blu-ray, but it's seamless. It for the most part. But Prometheus, I do like the theatrical version. So Prometheus and Alien Covenant, I hold them all equal. They're all the same for me. I can't choose like which one is better because some do better things than others. So to me, they're all equal. They're not going anywhere, so they're all equal. Alien Resurrection is below them by quite a bit. Alien versus Predator and Alien Requiem, I just don't care about. they're just that, because Alien Resurrection I find has some merits. On some nights you can crack open a beer and watch it, and I think the last time I've watched it 3 or 4 times it's always been with friends. I've never really watched it on my own, and I think that's it. I don't think there's any more Alien films. So yeah, anyway, there you go. Hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Hope you don't mind listening to me waffle on. But yeah, Thanks for watching.